Thanks for coming, everybody. We're going to talk about practical applications and strategies for Drupal recipes in any organization. I am Jim Birch. I am a Drupal CMS committer, track lead, and on the advisory board. I'm the recipes and default content subsystem maintainer in Drupal core, along with another couple of great devs. I'm an award-winning web developer, as I'm sure a lot of you are too, an Airbnb superhost, and a Cape Cod washershore. So in this session, we're going to cover what recipes are, how to find, apply, and organize them, the different types of recipes, how recipes fit into Drupal's future, and strategies for using recipes across organizations. Okay, so what is a Drupal recipe? A recipe is a predefined, reusable set of configuration and functionality that combine years of experience and apply to a Drupal site in seconds. So we can install a contact form, create a whole blog with blog categories and tags and topics in a blog view. We can create an event calendar, all with no coding at all. So recipes configure modules, set permissions, create content types, create views, and the list goes on and on. So what recipes actually do is, in the first step, they can apply other recipes. So you can make your recipe require and depend on other recipes. They can install modules and themes. They can import configuration from modules, themes, and a recipe inside its own folder. So the recipe can create that configuration. The magic happens when we run config actions. So config actions let us do things to configuration in your Drupal site, whether it existed before or is a part of the recipe. And then the final step is that we can import configuration that is content. So you can start off a site with demo content. You can pre-set up taxonomies. So that's a really powerful feature too. What recipes can't do is they can't contain any PHP code. There's no code at all in recipes. They can't make any logical decisions, or shouldn't. They can't contain any other recipes. They can require them from other places, but in themselves, they shouldn't have any other recipes. They can't be updated. Once they're applied to your site, there's no connection to your site. They're ephemeral, poof, they're gone with the wind. So, you can just say, hey, boss, I made this huge blog. It took me 2 days, and it really took you 2 seconds. And we've made a conscious decision to not allow deletion of any configs or uninstalling modules. You can't do anything that could maybe bork the Drupal site you're applying it to. So why recipes matter? Efficiency. You can build and rebuild faster with reusable pieces. A normal step would be requiring a module, enabling a module, opening up the UI, finding the configuration screen, or going and creating a new bundle type, or new content type, or new taxonomy vocabulary, and then having to configure it all. So you can do all this now with a click of a button. Standardization. You can apply consistency across projects. Whether you work at an agency, a business, a university, we all have the pain of managing different solutions on different sites that do the exact same thing. Like, how many different kinds of carousels do we really need? Standardizing on recipes allows for a consistent starting point. They can be customized, of course, as they're on each site, but at least your baseline has this standardization now. Scalability. We want easier onboarding, documentation, training, and replication across teams and even organizations. When there's an approved, defined approach on how to do things, you can onboard faster, you can train junior developers easier, you can come up with testing solutions for the features that you've built, and those testing solutions can be used across projects. So imagine creating a Cypress test for this recipe that you can now port over to many different sites. Empowerment. This is the biggest thing with Drupal CMS, as non-developers can apply complex features through a UI. So thanks to the project browser module and the ability to create different browsers, you can now present different recipes to users that can create a blog, install AI tools, and install that complex event system, all with a click of a button. So what are the recipe types? We've been talking about this for a few years, and the first thing we did was we put Drupal recipes in core. We modeled the core recipes after the standard install profile. They're broken up into smaller recipes. You can install just standard recipe, and that'll install the whole suite. But you can go in there and have your recipe require the media entities. Like the Drupal core's standard profiles media entities are great. They should be on every site. Even when I installed Drupal from Minimal, I would go back into the standard profile and grab those media entities. Now you can just require them. You can require them specifically from /core/recipes. Now, Chris Wells, which a lot of us know from Redfin Solutions up north, came up with this really great naming convention for recipes. Ingredients. These are super small configs. Think permissions or a view or something that other recipes can consume. Meals and snacks would consume recipes. So that might be in core, we have the tags taxonomy. That's a single recipe. And then we have the article taxonomy. Like those might be building blocks to get into the higher things. So ingredients, snacks, and meals is kind of like atomic design. There's a way to stack recipes. Site starters. These are Drupal recipes, usually of type site. These are full website starters. Think Drupal CMS in this case. They encompass a massive amount of configs. They could contain multiple recipes. This is what I've seen as people's first recipe that they make. They work in an agency. They're going to try to replicate the distribution that they had or their install profile. Or a lot of people had Drush make files back in the day. Thank you for that. These are, you'll find a lot of them. They're really cool to read too, because you can look at to see what other people are doing, how people are doing. And usually, once people have these recipes, they're really hard to reapply or put on an existing site. So think of these as a site starter, more than the recipes where you can take one and apply it to any site. And these are going to evolve into site templates. So the idea of site templates actually came out at the first DrupalCon Portland in 2022, and that's when the Recipes Initiative was started. Dries talked about site templates, and this is what we needed. And it only took us a whole bunch of years to get here. But the Drupal CMS team is working on 3 ultra-specific site templates. The first is going to be for like a B2B solution. So they're going to actually make a data structure, data architecture for an actual website for a fictitious business, and then they're going to create 2 more. I'm not sure what the next 2 are going to be, but they will be large curated recipes, and then the site template is going to have a theme that comes along with it that is for Experience Builder. Experience Builder theme is going to be built on the design system that's being worked on by MediaCurrent. So it will actually just require the theme. It shouldn't have the theme inside of it, but it should require it. But it's going to be completely customized for an actual demo site for people to install. So site templates remove the need for install profiles. You can actually create a Drupal site now with null as the install profile. And they will be able to you'll be able to hit the install button and start adding content if you wanted to. So how to find recipes. Bang, new.drupal.org. It's coming soon. They've been working on it a long time, but they recently released a view page, a listing page of recipes. So if you create your project as a general project on Drupal.org, and your composer type is Drupal recipe, this view will find it and be in it. They're currently in alphabetical order because we don't have any telemetry yet on how recipes are downloaded from Drupal.org, because we don't actually know when recipes are applied because they're ephemeral and they don't stay with Drupal, so the update module doesn't report back. But there's an issue on Drupal.org, and people have started working on that. I've kept my recipes on GitHub for years, and I know other people have them on GitLab. You can use tags and topics to organize them. This is how I share them with my internal team. GitHub, actually, you can query their API also for any composer type of Drupal recipe, and you can creep on other people's recipes too. So that's one solution. Packagist. So we've connected our GitHub at Kanopi to Packagist, so you could actually require Kanopi/saplings instead of Drupal/module also. And Project Browser. So this gives recipes a UI into the Drupal space. Drupal CMS ships with 2 project browsers exposed. That is the recommended add-ons. So those are recipes that are local to your Drupal CMS. You actually have those recipes in the code system. And then Drupal.org modules, which is the default browser, with JSON feed. Project Browser is great because you can create as many browsers as you want. There's actually one for Drupal core modules, so you could put that on and discover modules that you have in Drupal core that you didn't know about. But we'll get to more on Project Browser in a minute. Adam Fenoproxima created a recipe installer kit, which is basically customizing the Drupal installer. So this is why the installer in Drupal CMS looks so nice and is so quick, because he basically forked the installer into this project and customized it and open sourced it. So now you could create your own installer for Drupal. So some of us went to the WebMD talk before with the Ignite CMS. Like, they are using Drupal, but they call it Ignite CMS, right? Like, you could completely customize the Drupal experience as a product or product as a service. Now you can do it to the installer also. Okay, presenting recipes in the real world. So inside your organization, create reusable recipes for your team and publish and promote them. Abstract daily work, if possible, to make reusable recipes. Work to standardize your builds with these recipes, and then document all the things, of course. You can create custom installers to build turnkey products and project starters. You can create your own project browsers. So talked about that, and we'll get to it a little bit in the higher ed. We'll go into the strategies here. So, while every organization is different, recipes support both top-down and bottom-up structures, so they can fit into the needs of any organization. So with centralized IT models, the IT team can share and maintain the core recipes. They can push updates to the different satellites and teams or departments if they're keeping it, or just keep that centralized location. We find that this is useful for higher ed, government, large enterprise. decentralized or distributed teams. We empower individual teams to curate their own, or apply curated recipes, creating their own recipes. Ideal for nonprofits and kind of campaign-based teams. And then agencies and service providers. This is what I talked about, building a library of ingredients, snacks, and meals. Use your site starter builders. When you're taking in new support clients, like what recipes can you apply to standardize what's there, adding functionality. I have a recipe called 90-day password policy that puts the OWASP standards into a password policy for every site. So it's configuring the password policy module, creating that password policy entity, and configuring it the way I want, and then assigning it to the roles that I need to do. So, this could take a developer maybe an hour or two, but now it takes 5 minutes. So we improve maintainability through standardized components. So the key strategies here, we want to curate a well-documented internal catalog of recipes, distribute them using the installers, packages, Drupal.org, project browser. Definitely need to educate, training your staff on how to use them, how to make them. It's not something that Drupal developers have gravitated to until they actually see it in action. It's kind of probably like AI tools, like, I don't need that until you actually sit down and vibe code for a little while, and then go, okay, I get it. I see how it helps. And automate. So for higher ed, we find that usually a central IT team maintains, is the gatekeeper to the Drupal instances. But a lot of the times, there are different websites. They either do this through a distribution where they have to maintain and worry about every website that they may break when they do changes to the distribution, or you can create recipes, starting points for your sites, your departments, your different schools in your own university, and then expose them to project browsers or the installer. So we have a model where we actually have different project browsers for a university. So you could create a department tools browser that is for departments in the university. And then you could create a clubs tool browser, and you can make websites for the clubs at the university. And then the browsers have permissions too. So once you create a user of the department role or a user of the club role, they would only have access to the project browser that they have access to. So you can create this distributed everywhere, and only the right people would be able to see what recipes you've approved for their type of tool. In enterprise, again, we see a lot of departments, brands, microsites. Some people use site factories and custom upstreams, and there's a lot of solutions for this, but this is a truly open source solution where you can just provide recipes for these different sub-organizations to apply. And then nonprofits and NGO. This is a really good opportunity for site templates to feel the need. Kanopi works with a lot of organizations that try to do good in the world. If we can give them a tool to spawn their own websites when they need to for campaigns or field offices or different countries, they can take great advantage of the site template idea. And then agencies. Using that ingredient, snack, and meal size recipes on support clients can offer bigger bang and more efficiency for the investment. I love starting the builds all the same. The last 12 websites we've built have all had kind of like a standard base, UI, admin, even though the sites look and act completely differently. And more consistent sites leads to better documentation and training. So, key takeaways. Recipes are a game changer for productivity, consistency, usability. Site templates will only increase the use and creation of recipes. And if you haven't yet, I think now is the time to start creating, curating, applying them in your own projects and thinking of ideas for site templates. How can we get more easier to use Drupal out into the world? And thank you very much for coming, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you got. Thank you.
So the first recipe that I created is something that I use in Tugboat for QA. So because it has sample content, we can have a base site in our QA environment, Tugboat, and then on every pull request, we get a new site, and it inherits all the content from that base site, and then we can do visual regression testing. And that's use that I haven't heard very much.
Yeah, that's a great question, so I'm going to speak into the microphone. Benji uses recipes for QA, using them in the base installation on Tugboat, which is a QA multi-dev environment tool. Yeah, really cool use case for having just a simple recipe that imports default content. Yeah, cool, thank you. Yeah.
Consider a use case where you have an organization, they currently have an installation profile that they built long before recipes was an option. And a lot of the kind of job that recipes does is in the install configuration for the profile. What are your recommendations for a team that wants to migrate to a more modern recipes-based solution for some of that configuration, but they still have this installation profile in their ecosystem? What would be the first steps to take?
I would start one with a net new project where it didn't need to be tied back to the existing sites. Identifying of the install profile, what do they need to maintain consistently across websites? Because that's where the distribution and the install profile idea still works, right? So there are some things that this team wants to maintain consistent throughout. Identifying what they don't, like what do they want to give the freedom to the site owners? That's where the recipes would really shine and lower their overall risk of maintainability over the years if they're just isolating what the the things they want to leave and then install profile.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you see recipes enhancing modules by, instead of having me pour through documentation, giving me some sort of best practice or opinionated configuration that helps me learn what the module can do? Is it, again, not for production, but for learning?
Sure. Well, I mean, so modules come with configuration already, I think, so they do have opinions about what they want. Some modules just set a real baseline, right? But yeah, you could use a recipe to require and set settings. There is a issue open in the checklist API that wants to turn the checklists into configuration entities. Once that happens, I think that would be a much better tool. Recipes could be the delivery system for it, but like if you could send a checklist with your module. So in Drupal CMS, we require the SEO checklist module. There's some custom code that actually goes through to see things that that are already checked, like we install the redirect module. So that button is actually checked for you. But if you could have your checklist as a configuration entity, then you could bring a checklist with you and like, here's all the things that we've enabled in this recipe, and here's links to them to teach you how to learn
Have a
them.
different recipe depending on what config actions I wanted, so I'd say, let me try this, let me try, just so you're not going through and setting, oh, I don't want that.
Yeah,
It's kind of a add water and stir.
sure. Yeah, that's a great idea.
But when will that checklist become entered? When will those?
As soon as somebody decides to start working on it and then doing it. So it's an issue, it's an idea for now, but yeah, the people that are the idea came from are all being paid to work on Experience Builder. So there are priorities in this open source / other ecosystem.
One thing at a time.
Yeah, yeah. Or many things at a time, like the octopus, all the tentacles are going, but yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you all in the next session. Yeah.
Food slot killing me.
I know. I always give this presentation right before lunch, too.